What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Life Beyond Boxes podcast. I'm your host, one of the hosts, actually, Marion, and I got Victor with me today.
Welcome back, everyone.
And we have a really special guest, actually, today locally here in the Boston area. Got Dr. Kelly with Charles Street Family Chiropractic in Boston. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Do you actually often own podcasts?
This is the second podcast I've ever done. The first one is Unfindable, thank God.
In Boston, locally?
No, this is many years ago.
That's actually a pretty good name.
Was it a podcast about chiropractic? Or
Not
was
at all.
something completely different?
It's totally different, yeah.
Can you share what it was about?
It was, I forget what the main podcast was about, but he was doing a series on relationships.
Gotcha. Nice.
Leave it there.
All right, since it's unfindable, we won't not find it. So as the name of the show, Life Beyond Boxes podcast, a few questions have to do with helping our customers, in this case, even our employees.
Absolutely.
Because at the end of the day, pretty much every person on earth that has to do with, or they're involved in a day-to-day, some kind of task, going to work, working out, lifting things and put them down, right?
Yeah.
We can use some advice on that regard. So we'll go as, depending on, how deep how your answers will be.
For sure.
But let's, I guess, go a little bit into introduction, a little bit your story. How did you get started in this industry and why? Actually, that's what I'm
Yeah. So I've actually been under chiropractic care since I was a newborn. So my mom brought me because she thought my head was shaped funny. It was fine, thank God. But I got regular care growing up. And then I was very active growing up. So I played a lot of sports. I had a lot of knee pain and low back pain. And my knee pain was being treated with physical therapy. I had done MRIs. No one could really figure out what was wrong. And I ended up back at a chiropractor's office that was a sports-focused chiropractor. So he had done some therapies on my quads, which are the muscles in the front of your legs, break up some scar tissue, break up some tension, and I've never had knee pain since. So that was the biggest impact that chiropractic had in my life. And then I went to school, I studied psychology, and I decided that that wasn't what I wanted to do. So I moved home, I started working, and I ended up working at a chiropractic college. And there I realized that this was everything I was looking for in a career, that this is a way I could help people and actually see the effects of my work. So that's when I decided to go to school and become a chiropractor.
That's a cool story. Where's home?
Here? I'm from California.
Okay. California and back to Boston.
Yeah, so my parents are originally from Massachusetts. So that was one of the things that brought my sister and I back here, was we have family here and we wanted to just move somewhere. So
Boston sounds like I guess home in both ways, since your parents are from here.
Yeah.
All right, so obviously you have your own experience, and that helps a lot. Like I feel like a lot of times in any industry, if you have experience on yourself on that, especially when it comes to like medical and or like even fitness, anything of that matter, it plays a big role into how you look at things. I was talking to, like side note, I was talking to a wellness doctor here in Mass yesterday, and we were talking about peptides and whatnot, because I was looking for somebody local that I could have a conversation about, and he said, I'm actually using all of these peptides, like the recovery, the BPC 157 for, and actually that's maybe, we'll address, I don't know how much that is involved in the chiropractic space, but if it's not, then totally cool. But let's go now a little into I know we talked right before we hit record.
Yeah.
Who's the typical patient that you guys help, and what are the typical, I guess, issues that people come to you guys?
Yeah, so I would say the most common issues that we're going to see are neck pain and low back pain. That's 90% of the time what people come in for. But we also have a huge portion of our practice that focuses on personal injury. I wouldn't say huge, I guess, but it is a significant portion. And the owner actually wrote a book about what to do after a car accident. So that's brought a lot of attention onto the personal injury side of the practice. But we see everybody from newborns to people that are in their 90s, sometimes 100. So we see a variety of issues. We have people that come in for shoulder complaints, TMJ complaints, kids wetting the bed, fertility issues, sometimes things like allergies and asthma even.
And is it all somewhere along the line due to an alignment kind of thing, and it's affecting other portions? Because, I mean, to me, child wetting the bed, I would never think chiropractic, right?
Yeah.
I would think that it's probably something else. So how does that all correlate to kind of what you guys do?
So what we typically say is we don't treat anything like that. We don't treat pain even. We treat restoring the nervous system function. We treat this thing called a subluxation, which is a misalignment in the spine. So if we can restore function to the nervous system by realigning spine, then all sorts of the good things can happen, right? And so I'm not treating bedwetting, but after that child's first adjustment, they didn't wet the bed for a week.
Wow.
Where they had been doing it every night before.
Wow.
And I'm not treating anybody for infertility, but if after adjusting them, they happen to get pregnant, amazing.
I never thought, I'm actually, me and my wife were, just went through two IVF treatments, and because she had some previous issues with a disease called endometriosis, but I've never thought about this being connected to something like this.
Yeah, we don't seek it out, but we had recently purchased a cold laser, which had been studied for infertility. And so as soon as we ordered it, before it had even arrived, some woman called the company and said, "Who has this thing?" They found out we had bought it. And so they started calling the practice, posted it on Facebook in an infertility focused group. And suddenly we got a ton of patients that just wanted to come use our laser for that.
And get into that, what is the cold laser?
So the cold laser is a kind of red light therapy that helps to increase circulation, decrease inflammation, and speed up healing. It works through a process called photobiomodulation, which just increases the energy within cells. They don't really know why it works, but it does. It's really amazing. My sister, I shared the story before, my sister got bitten in the face by a dog, and it had completely punctured her lip. So they couldn't sew it up because they were concerned about the bacteria that might be in the cut.
Yeah.
So she went to her chiropractor who had a cold laser. They did a couple treatments on it, and even after the first treatment, it looked like it had been healing for about a week.
Wow. That's amazing. You hear a lot about like the red light therapy that people do, and like I've always thought it was more recovering the muscles and everything after like sports, and
a lot of people do use it for that. And there's a lot of different types of laser therapies and colors and wavelengths and everything.
It's crazy. I never knew it could actually heal like cuts. That's
amazing. It's really good at that.
And why wouldn't you do that? Obviously, if you can not add any other foreign substance to it with, somebody's hand going in, needle, thread, whatever it might be, why wouldn't you do that? It's amazing.
Is it treating mainly, like in this case, like a cut, or is it actually, it can go and heal or potentially heal some type of inflammation within the body that you don't necessarily see it?
Yeah, so it can go deeper. There's a limit to how deep it can go, but we use it on a lot of patients with disc injuries. So that's pretty deep in the body, and it does help them. So it can be a pain reliever. It can help decrease inflammation even deeper.
Wow. And is it constantly progressing, that kind of technology on getting better, getting deeper, and kind of going even above and beyond already what it is?
Yeah, I think that there's probably a limit on how deep it can go, but it is definitely progressing. So one of the lasers that we have actually moves, which helps to increase the laser's ability to be absorbed by the body. And it's been like FDA approved for certain conditions like plantar fasciitis.
Interesting. So I'm trying to understand, like, does it restore the current cells that are affected in like within the inflammation, or is it actually creating more like? It's
not well known. Okay. The thing that they've figured out is it increases the energy within the cells, which would
probably restore them.
Help them heal or somewhat continue the process of getting rid of bad ones and getting new ones built.
That's interesting. Yeah, it's actually something.
It is contraindicated for cancer, so not to be used on cancer because it could potentially promote the growth of it. So could help.
And then, so
generate new cells.
Now, I want to actually ask you more questions about this. Who's mainly, I guess, from your experience, what kind of patients, like, do you see athletes using this therapy for, I don't know, like recovery and whatnot? Do you see more people specifically after car accidents or other kind of injuries, or sports injuries in this case? Or? Yeah, I mean, in our case, not a lot of people come and ask for it. So it's something that we usually recommend after something like a car accident. But also any kind of disc injury that we're treating with our non-surgical spinal decompression table, we will combine that with our cold laser. I also have used it on patients that have recently had surgeries. So even though they were almost completely healed from the skin
incision, they were using it to reduce scar tissue while they were healing.
And going to, because I know you were saying a little bit earlier that you guys offer it and you guys got on that forum about offering it and you guys got a little business that way. Mm-hmm. How rare is it in your field? And are you guys one of the only ones around the Boston area that does it? Go into a little bit of that on how frequently is used, and is it not everyone's kind of first go-to thinking of to fix an injury or whatever it might be?
Yeah, I think particularly in Boston, because there's a lot of limited space, it's not in every practice. There are quite a few practices that probably do have some version of it, because there are handheld ones that we even have in the office. So people probably have them. But yeah, they might not necessarily use them as frequently. But there are also practices in the surrounding areas that are completely built off of laser therapy.
Really crazy how
I didn't.
less we know. How we know.
Well, our expertise are in moving and running the company, not so much in any of this.
No, but lately I've actually been looking at, and I try myself a lot of peptides specifically for recovery and whatnot, and that's why I wanted to kind of understand as much as I can about all this. And by the way, actually, do you guys use in any of the situations? Do you recommend peptides or not really?
Not myself personally. We do have a nutritionist in the practice, so she might do some of that. I don't know what she does exactly, but she focuses a lot on gut health in general. And there's a lot of people that come with her with concerns about weight loss in particular, so that's kind of more her side of things. Most people are coming to the practice because of some problem and not necessarily optimization, even though optimization is ultimately what our goal is.
Actually, that was my next question. How much of the patients come to you guys strictly after an injury, car accident, any kind of sports-related industry or not, versus prevention?
I would say, honestly, prevention is becoming more popular. We are getting a lot of younger people who are curious about wellness care or even just posture optimization. But I'd say 95% of our patients are coming in because of some pain or some concern that they have with their health.
I think now more than ever, you have the younger generations that are more worried about the long term. It's not now every youth think that they're invincible. Now I think you see a lot more of the younger generation being proactive and kind of more cautious about what everything is, especially when everyone's working at desks and there. So it's nice to see that people are going in for more maintenance and just kind of making sure that everyone's doing kind of what they need to, which goes into one other thing I wanted to ask you. Mm-hmm. Obviously, a lot of people listening here might work desk jobs. Just in general, posture is obviously a big issue on a lot of people, especially when you get older.
Yeah.
What are run-of-the-mill, everyday things people can do to help improve their posture, which ultimately just helps everything kind of work a little bit better?
Yeah. So there are a few things. So in regards to a desk job, I would say getting up every hour, set an alarm on your phone so that you have that reminder to get up out of your seat. It's going to be good for your physical health, also good for your mental health. Walk around wherever you are. You take a 5-10 minute walk, take a break, do a stretch, whatever it is, come back, and your posture will be reset. So it gives your body a chance to relieve from the stress of the postures you were in. And then you can come back to it and you'll kind of have a chance to reset that. The second thing is just stay active. Try to include activity into your day, whether it's walking to the grocery store, taking a 10-minute walk after a meal, something to just keep yourself active and moving and fit as possible. And kind of a different side of thing, but get a firm mattress and get a supportive pillow, because you are in bed for hopefully 7 to 8 hours a night at least. And those 7 to 8 hours, you're in one position for the most part. You're not flipping around. So having a lot of support is going to be really helpful to preventing a lot of issues in the future.
And by firm mattress, we mean just like a higher end, nicer mattress, or an actual one that's firm, like Sleep Number or the memory foam kind of stuff.
Yeah, I'd say foam mattresses are probably the ones that are going to be less supportive, even if they are labeled as firm. Mm-hmm. So a higher quality is probably going to be better, but even a firm foam mattress is better than a soft foam mattress. Mm-hmm. And then really important is that pillow too, because if your pillow is not supportive to your neck, you are putting yourself at more risk for injury.
It's actually interesting. I just bought a new mattress. Me and my girlfriend went to Jordan's Furniture, and they did the Bridget thing, which I didn't even know was a thing. You like lie down, and they tell you exactly how you guys are both matched up, and to get. So you basically lie on this thing, and I don't know. It might be all fake. It might work. I don't know what it does, but it literally tells you, hey, you put this much weight on this part of your body, and so on, and then what type of mattress you should each get.
Yeah.
And I was joking around with the salesperson. I go, what if we're just like horribly unmatched? He goes, oh, well, we have a solution for everything. And I go, that's a sales thing that I would say. But he did talk heavily about the pillows, and that was the biggest thing he said different between, one person to another is the pillow that you need. So you can't just buy like random ones off the shelf. You got to buy specific ones.
Yeah.
I didn't end up buying them. I thought it was all an upsell, but maybe now I'll go back to him and kind of take a look at that, because there was like 19 different options. So it's kind of crazy how particular they get about everything.
It's funny now that I'm thinking, I guess I based my sleeping habits based on, guys, if I just sleep on my back, I snore. So I have to go either on my belly or on the side. So that's how I base the size of my pillow. Definitely not. Like, I feel comfortable. Doesn't matter how big or small it is. It's just that's how I base my pillow size. You'll probably say that it's a wrong way to look at it, but
what I will say is sleeping on your stomach is probably one of the worst sleeping postures you can have, and I say that as a stomach sleeper. So
I can't do stomach
because your neck has to be turned to the side the entire night.
Gotcha.
So you want your body to be in as neutral a position as possible. So on your back is best, on your side is good, stomach is terrible because you're just cranked to the side the whole night.
Both of my hands.
I do the side sleeping, then I go on my shoulder, and then I wake up with like a dead shoulder in the morning. So that's how I typically would do it. But I've been trying to sleep a little bit more on my back for, obviously those are reasons.
Yeah.
It's one other thing that I don't want to get too much into it because then we'll probably be here forever. But you said something that you have to get up every hour to kind of go and walk and whatnot.
Yeah.
Now, what about in my case? The moment I let's say I have a task to do and I know it's going to take 3 hours of just boring work, but I have to be focused. If I get out of my office, if I leave that desk for a second, I'm not coming back to the same task.
Well, hopefully I think you're the rare one that needs that 3 hours of focus. But in a case like yours, honestly, I would recommend having a sit-to-stand desk that you could just change positions while you're there so that you're not in a seat for 3 hours straight. And you're also not standing for 3 hours straight, but you can alternate.
Oh, standing for 2 hours would be bad too?
Yeah, you don't want to be in any one position for too long. It's going to put the same stress on whatever muscles are being used.
So that's why the ones that go up and down and sitting and then obviously, standing for half the day or whatever, kind of switching back and forth is ideal.
Switch back and forth.
Is there a certain, obviously compared to everyone's body, is there a certain height that a desk should be at? When you're kind of standing at a desk, should it be obviously not your shoulder length? It should be kind of right at your midsection? Is there a particular one that works better? I wouldn't say
desk height is as important as where your keyboard, mouse, and monitor are.
Gotcha.
So you want the top of your monitor to be at about eye level so that you're not having to bring your head forward towards it. You want your arms to be at kind of a lazy L position, so not too high, not super low, not even 90 degrees, but a little bit lower so that you're not placing any strain on your wrists, your elbows, your shoulders.
And how about, because I think you've touched base on this, for listeners that don't know, me and Dr. Kelly are in a BNI group, which is a marketing group, and we do virtual meetings every week, and she does the Wellness Minute every week, and a lot of these tips, come in handy, which is actually funny because it's all on Zoom, so anytime you come talk about wellness tips, you see every single person stand up a little bit straight and put their shoulders back, and then when she's done with it, a lot of us just go back to our normal positions. But you talked about your floor, your mat, and kind of what you're standing on. Can you get a little bit into that on how that helps?
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to be standing for periods of time, or if that's your preference to work from a standing position, then having a supportive mat that you're standing on is going to put less pressure on the body. Standing on a hard concrete floor is going to be way more uncomfortable over time for your feet, your back, than standing on something with some cushion.
Meaning you put up, for example, in this carpet style flooring, you put another mat on top of it?
Yeah, like a thicker foam mat. Yeah, I was actually just getting my hair done before this, and you notice that all of the hairdressers are standing on foam mats because they're standing all day. Yeah.
And barefoot shoes? I mean, obviously, people that can't do this don't go barefoot in the office. But is there a preference whether you should be barefoot for X amount of time or you should always have shoes kind of thing?
I haven't thought much about that, but it is something that I used to hear more about when I was in school. I would say that there is definitely a preference for being barefoot because you just have more connection with your environment if you are, both for physical and mental reasons. Yeah. A lot of times we're wearing shoes that are too small. That has a tendency in our culture because we want to have small feet for whatever reason. But that can be kind of compressive. So not too long ago, I actually was getting some new sneakers and I went down to a local store and they measured my feet and told me I was wearing a full size too small. Wow. Which was a shock. So appropriate size footwear if you are having footwear that doesn't have too small of a toe box, so the front of the shoe, so it's not compressing your toes because you want to be able to spread them out a little bit. And then if you like being barefoot, go barefoot.
When I do that, kind of switching gears a little bit, I want to ask a little bit of a selfish question.
Sure.
So when I started practicing jiu-jitsu probably about two and a half years ago, I didn't realize there are bones and muscles in my body that could hurt. I didn't even know that I have bones and muscles in spots based on the pain that I was getting after a couple of things. And then, of course, I understood a couple of the things that I was doing wrong. But from a recovery standpoint, what would you recommend somebody does on a weekly, monthly basis? Let's say somebody that's training 7 days a week, no break.
Oh, God, we'll take a break first off. That is not...
Pretty bad. Weightlifting and martial arts, combination of martial arts. But, some days overlap with weightlifting and whatnot. Then days off are just not necessarily fitting well with me. So
this does sound personal. Well, first off, take a dang rest day. Okay, your body needs rest. It's very individual, right? Everybody's a little different. I would say most people need to make sure that they're doing some kind of dynamic movement before they're working out. So something like a walking lunge, spinal twist, try to warm up the joints that you're going to use, warm up the muscles in the joints that you're going to use. And then make sure you take some time after you work out to do some static stretching. Doesn't matter if you're doing...
so many times, actually, and for some reason, it's just, after I'm done, I want to go home.
No one wants to do all that stuff, but it really...
Yeah. I mean, I think if you mentally plan for it beforehand, say you're planning on working out for an hour, you have to spend that last 15 minutes doing some static stretching. So you're going to do 15 minutes beforehand of dynamic movement. You have a half an hour to work out, and then you do 15 minutes of stretching after. It's just so important. It's going to help reduce some of that soreness that you get after working out. It's also just going to increase your mobility over time, which is going to help you be a better athlete. And when you think about it in the long run, you don't want to be like stiff and rigid, right?
True. No, but this, actually, it was a chiropractor that came at the gym after training, and some guys have really bad lower back pain and whatnot. And then he actually said that, and then the professor said it a few times. Like, I never thought about actually stretching off, but it makes a lot of sense because you're actually, that's when
you're warm and you can stretch on it better.
Yeah. So, that's a really good point. Now, switching gears into the actual moving situation, right? We talked about this right before we pressed record, but so of course there'll be a lot of different situations when people might decide I don't have the budget, I don't have the rest of it for all that. It's going to be a lot better spent if you actually hire a moving company. But let's say somebody would decide, right, I'm gonna do this myself.
Yeah.
Right. Somebody that maybe is not working out 7 days a week or even a few days a week. Maybe somebody that's just working on a desk job. We're not going into weight loss and whatnot and any kind of situation. But let's say somebody between the ages of 40 to 50 years old, not very active, but then they decide, I don't have the budget, I want to do this myself. What kind of injury outside of just back pain, that lifting things up and putting down and going up and down the stairs, would you think or kind of at least understand to prevent?
Yeah, so I would say back pain is the most common that we're going to see after somebody tries to move themselves. But the problem is it a strain, like a muscle strain? Did I just irk a muscle in my back, or did I really injure my disc in my back? So, some people do a strain in a workout as well, right? They can do that at the gym, and they can also injure their disc at the gym. So that's kind of the difference that we're going to be looking for is this just a muscle strain that is going to heal on its own, and maybe we give you some exercises, or did you really mess up your disc and now it's going to be a longer recovery?
Really great point you bring it up. Can someone understand that from home? Like, how would we know the difference?
I don't know that you would know the difference. If you have pain shooting down your leg, it's probably more likely a disc than a muscle strain. Yeah. But it's probably something that you need to be assessed for, because there are certain tests that we're going to do to determine that. But there are some obvious signs if you have a very bad disc, like pain going down your leg, difficulty walking. If you cough, sneeze, or bear down to go to the bathroom and you have an increase in pain, it's more likely a disc.
And is that something, shout out to my dad. I remember growing up, and my dad's, I think, 65 as of now. But even growing up, when he was in his 40s, I used to always remember him throwing out his back, right? Yeah. And then his back would hurt for like a day, and then the next day he would be fine. So the old man term, sorry, Dad, the throwing out the back, is that usually just a strain? It wouldn't keep going in and out if it was a disc, right?
It actually, I would say, is probably more commonly a disc.
Gotcha.
So I had a patient in recently who was like, every couple years I injure my back. And I'm like, well, when's the first time that happened? And it was high school, 17 years old. Doesn't really remember why, but usually it's like a weightlifting injury or something, like trying to move your own stuff, where classically you're doing a deadlift and you get back pain. And it's usually pretty bad, but they rest, they kind of get better on their own eventually, especially if your first injury is when you're young. And then, so what's happened is, if you can imagine the disc as a firm, fibrous external case of the inside, which is like a gel. I describe it as like a toothpaste. Some people describe it as like a Boston cream pie donut. So that gel on the inside of the disc can actually start bulging through the fibrous tissue. So the tissue that's fibrous is meant to keep it in, and it gets little tears in it. So that first injury might just be a slight tear, but not a complete disc herniation, which is when the gel comes out completely. So when it just starts pushing, it's called a disc bulge. So that's typically when you're going to see a lot of low back injuries start that are disc related. And then they re-injure themselves over the years doing other activities, can be sometimes super small. I've bent over and sneezed.
Yeah.
And, they'll be down and out for a few more days, maybe a week this time.
Yeah.
And it'll continue to happen over the years. And sometimes it's the same injury that's just reoccurring, but sometimes it gets worse. And so we'll see patients that come in that are hobbling because they've had this back injury over time, but now suddenly it's not getting better on its own. It's not getting better with rest, and they're unable to get out of bed.
Can a tear be fixed by,
that's what I was saying.
But, with vitamins, or whatever diet, I don't know, maybe medicine or that, or is just camouflaged until the next thing happens, and then that tear just becomes deeper and deeper.
So they do heal on their own, right? Like, our bodies are meant to heal. If you get a cut, it's going to heal. So they do heal on their own, but they are now weaker, right? If you break a bone, it'll rebuild, but it's weaker. So it's more prone to re-injury. It's more likely that it can happen again. And there are certain things that you can do to prevent that thing from happening again, or prevent that tissue from being re-injured. So strength training is going to be a huge thing in trying to prevent that injury. You want to stabilize the spine and the discs using the muscles around it.
You're reading my mind. That was the next question. Because I heard so many podcasts recently, and they were talking about the importance of focusing on trying to build muscles. Even if you've had, because I think it was a question about how much you should focus on lifting heavy to build muscle mass over 40. And then somebody asked, like, well, what about over 50 and whatnot? I guess it doesn't matter the age bracket that you're in. Yeah. The muscle will still be able to protect the bone in a better way, right?
Absolutely. And you never are unable to build muscle. It's definitely harder as you get older, but it's never too late to start. And it doesn't have to be big, bulky muscles. You need more stability than anything. So I always say that it's best to work out as intense as you can, but that intensity is going to look so different for somebody that's 60, 70, 80 versus somebody that's 20, 30.
Like the muscle doesn't know what numbers it's.
Well, that's when you have those accountants that bench 450 pounds. You don't need to be that strong. But it's good to have. I think people focus on kind of the muscles that show the most. Shoulders, the biceps, and it's more the stability muscles that are probably weaken as you get older and are more important to kind of keep, kind of tight.
Yeah, especially people that are inactive. They get weak. They not only get weak, they get infiltrated by fat, which then makes them harder to build. So it is important to have kind of a basic routine, and it doesn't have to be bench pressing 400 pounds. But one of the things that I often give to patients that are recovering from back pain, once we've got them out of that kind of acute stage where they're in a lot of pain, is something called the McGill Core 3, like the big 3. If you Google it, you'll find McGill Big 3. And it's 3 core exercises. One is the bird dog, one is like a side plank, and one is it's like a sit-up, but not any bending happening, so it's more of a chin up, but it's an activation of your core. And those are like a good basic set of core workout that most people can do. They're really helpful if you're recovering from low back pain, but they're also going to be really helpful for preventing low back pain, and they probably take 15 minutes or less to do.
That's kind of ties into the next question, because I was wondering, so people come to you guys after an injury in most scenarios. What are some prevention tips that you guys typically give them? And of course, it's case by case. Yes. Somebody that got hit by a car versus somebody that just fell off a bike, or other scenarios like that. Or, depends. Like if you have injury on your lower back versus your knees or things like that. What are some things that people can do, or I guess what are some tips that you guys actually recommend to?
Yeah, so I will say beyond having a good mattress and good support, getting up every hour, trying to stay as active as possible, something I do talk to a lot of people about, and this is kind of relevant for the moving side of things as well, is trying to work on hip hinging. So a lot of people really collapse in their low back, whether they're lifting something or you're brushing. It's okay to slouch every once in a while. It's all good. Your body should be able to adapt. But, what I talk to people about is when you go to brush your teeth in the morning, do you hinge at your hips or do you slouch over the sink? Basically, everybody's just slouching over the sink, right? Yeah. But that's a perfect time to practice a good habit. Yeah. So practicing bending at your hips and instead of bending at your back. So then when you go to move yourself, you have already built in your habits into your consciousness that you need to be hinging at the hips. If you need to get lower, you need to bend at the knees. Yeah. That way you can lift with your legs and not your low back.
Yeah, because that's stuff that you do every single day, and it's 2 minutes out of your day, but it's constant. So the amount of time you're doing that adds up over the years, and muscle memory to kind of, just automatically go there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's crazy.
Just going like this.
I tend to do this every time when I sit at a desk, but only when we do a podcast. Mm-hmm. If I'm at my desk and I'm sitting, I'm typically either like this, like focus mode, or the other way, depending if my dog is in the office or whatnot. I would put my legs up on something else, and then I still, like, my back is still straight. Yeah. But I don't know, for some reason when I get to be like,
it's okay to slouch every once in a while.
All right, we want to hear some stories. You can share the craziest that you've seen. It doesn't have I don't know, we don't want to put a tag in terms of, because of course we don't want to make fun of injuries, but give us some stories that you've seen that people maybe came for treatment and they were, I don't know, injured in a weird, really weird way that was not supposed to happen.
Sure. So the first one that comes to mind was probably like the most intense I'd ever seen. So we had this guy come in. He was in his late 30s, works as a real estate agent, and he didn't tell us for months, but he had been hit by a car as a pedestrian. So his neighbor actually backed into him, knocked him over. And when he came in, he was hobbling, could barely stand up straight, couldn't really make it up and down stairs well. And he told us it was taking him 5 to 6 hours to get out of bed in the morning. He was using a bedpan because he couldn't make it to the bathroom. Wow. So he needed help. And yeah, we ended up getting him an MRI, which showed he had a disc injury. And then using very gentle adjustments, cold laser, and our non-surgical spinal decompression table, within, I want to say it was 3 or 4 months, it's completely better.
Backwards.
Yeah. I mean, he was better probably before that, but he was 100% better. Yeah. That was a major change for him.
And will he constantly have to go back, or is it kind of like once it's fixed, obviously you do stuff to maintain it and kind of keep it at bay, but is there like stuff that you would have to go like see you guys once a month to kind of keep it on the right track?
So what I will say is a common concern I hear is, am I going to have to keep coming to see you forever? And my response to that is, would you stop seeing your dentist? Because you went and they fixed your cavity. Would you stop seeing them? So
that's a good way to look at it. Yeah, that's a good point.
You know, and those are just your teeth, which are also bones.
Yeah.
But what about your spine?
Yeah.
Kind of vital.
Yeah.
So I recommend going to get checked. There are people, especially younger people, who probably only need to see us a couple times a year to get checked. But most people, even myself, have a very active lifestyle or have a physically demanding lifestyle, and they probably need to be checked more often. I personally get checked and often adjusted once a week, and that's what works for me. So in his case, I would recommend that he continues getting care.
Yeah.
He chose not to, and we'll probably see him next time
We'll see him in a couple of weeks.
Hopefully not when his neighbor backs into him again.
And so for our listeners out there, how would they go about finding you guys or just finding any chiropractic, office near them, and how would they go about setting up a regular routine of going there?
Yeah, I mean, so a simple Google search will pretty much find you a chiropractor in your area. It depends on what you like, too. Chiropractors practice in a lot of different ways, so some people are going to like more like appointments that are, half an hour to an hour, appointments that are shorter. So there's a lot of different styles out there. So if you go to one, you don't like them, go to another one. And figure out what you like. And yeah, usually you can just call the office. A lot of people, you can book online these days. So give them a call and set up an appointment.
You know what I was curious now that you mentioned these last couple of things. What's the main difference? So from a maintenance style, does that include, like, what would be the difference from a sport/athletic massage type of maintenance versus maintenance coming from a chiropractor? Let's say every week, if I'm like crazy sore, and a cold plunge doesn't cut it or whatever, to what extent, like, what do you see the difference? Or like, is it, because I know when the chiropractor comes at the jiu-jitsu class, after the class, he does, I guess it's like half of the time is some type of massage, like neck massage or like lower back, but it's done in a certain way. But then I've had sports/athletic massage to my neck and my shoulder when I had like pain. Mm-hmm. Like, to what extent is they're different, or are they a similar thing?
Somewhat similar. So rarely will chiropractors do massage, but they will do what's called a soft tissue modality. So something like a pin and stretch technique, which is what actually cured me of my knee pain, and something that I do on a lot of patients that really can help them. It's kind of up to the chiropractor whether or not they do that. I often say that it's a good combination to do something like massage and chiropractic, or physical therapy and chiropractic, or just exercise and chiropractic, because the combination of the things are going to attack the problem from a different angle. Yeah.
And as we get closer to wrapping things up, I'm curious to hear, I know you shared the case study with the real estate agent. Is that the most favorite turnaround that you've seen, or you have another one that like really it's stuck in your mind?
Yeah, there was another like more heartfelt, touching one for me, and it was a woman who had been experiencing low back pain for over a decade. And then she got into a car accident. She just clipped a curb and wound up on a concrete wall, half on it, half off of it. So there was actually no coverage for her because she'd done it all herself. But she came to see us, and car insurance will cover your injuries. So she got some coverage. There was just no one else to blame. And after, I think it was only like a month and a half of care, she came in to see me and she said, I'm not going to continue care anymore, but can I give you a hug? Because I have not felt this good long before my car accident. And just that impact that it had for her personally, it was so touching.
Yeah, that's amazing. I would imagine living with back pain has to be a
decade of back pain. Doesn't matter, lower, upper, 10 years to deal with something.
Yeah.
Like last year I was dealing for 8 months with a shoulder injury, and it felt like forever, but 10 years?
Yeah. There was another one recently. Somebody in our group was talking about this, but it was somebody that had come in and he had been hit by a car when he was 6 years old and had low back pain ever since. And we had him come in. After his first adjustment, he got relief, but we also noticed through our x-rays that he had a short leg. So he'd been walking around crooked his whole life. So we put a little heel lift in his shoe, got him straightened out. And I mean, he's been, I think, pain-free for at least like a month now. And it was just so impactful to him. He uses his body for his job. So the fact that he can work and not be in pain and go on vacation and walk around and not be in pain is life-changing, and he's been dealing with this since he was a child.
I think it's crazy.
That's so many things we take for granted.
And there's stuff that you don't even know might factor into an injury.
Yeah.
And that's why you go see the professionals that do. I mean, we've learned more from this podcast than probably any podcast. No offense to any of the other guests that we've had, but this has been, crazy. And I feel like not enough people know the slightest thing might be an easy fix as long as it takes the time and the effort to fix it. But I'm sure that they feel like there is no solution kind of thing. So
or they're just so used to it that they don't even think about solving it.
Yeah. And so for people that want to reach out to a chiropractor, because I know you mentioned most of the patients, if not all, patients are actually covered by insurance, so the services are covered by the insurance, but do they need some type of prescription to from the regular doctor to the chiropractor? Or
no.
How is it
Yeah, most people don't need a referral these days. That's how it used to be done, but nowadays most people can call, provide your insurance information, and if the chiropractor takes insurance, then they will verify your benefits.
Gotcha. Oh, so you can kind of self-diagnose.
Quick and easy kind of thing,
Yeah, you can refer yourself.
And I'm sure that there's like just evaluation things where you can go in and just be like, hey, listen, I don't really have that much back pain, but I just want to make sure that everything's aligned thing, right?
Most people will take any patient that's interested in getting their spine checked. So we often have people call and are like, I just want to check my posture. Or I just want to optimize my health. Can you take me? And we're like, absolutely. We'd be happy to do that.
That's awesome. I
always like to kind of close things up with this. What would be one question that you feel we should have asked you that we haven't?
Oh, that's a great question. I'm going to have to take a minute and think about that.
Well, I can just recap this episode. I'm pretty sure what Dr. Kelly's trying to tell everyone that is if you do not hire Premium Q Moving, you will split your disc, and then you will have to spend the rest of your life with back pain. So definitely hire Premium Q Moving.
Full disclaimer, everything that we talked about so far is just for informational and entertaining purposes. None of it is medical advice, and Victor is not actually a pushy salesperson. So
I guess the only other thing I could think of is like, what is proper lifting technique? If you are going to try to move something, how do you do it? I mean, we touched on it a little bit with use your legs and hip hinging and whatnot. But the only other thing I would add is nose over toes. Move your whole body so that your nose stay over your toes and you're not bending, twisting in an awkward direction where you would be more likely to hurt yourself.
And that's kind of the idea of it, just making sure that your back is straight and all your weight is kind of...
Yeah, it's like if you are...
Yeah.
The nose over toes concept is really not... So you don't bend to the side or turn to the side and go to place something down. You move your feet with your upper body.
Gotcha. Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Where can people find you guys? And if they want to book a call, maybe they've heard or they've seen the episode and they really loved what you said about all the tips about all the topics today, and maybe they want to book a consult with you. Can they do that, or they have to go through the portal and they choose whoever's available?
So they can call the office and request a provider if they're interested. They can also book online. So we're the BostonWellnessGroup.com. We're also accessible on Instagram and TikTok at Charles Street.
So of course, we'll put all the handles in the description below. But what's the most, I guess, not favorite, but where do you see most people contact you guys? Is it?
Most people probably call us, but a lot of people book online as well. 617-720-1992.
All right, and then we'll make sure we'll put all the links in the description below.
Cool.
Anything you guys want to add before we wrap it up?
No, I just thank you, Dr. Kelly, for coming on. It's been, like I said, amazing. It's been one of our more informational ones outside of the moving industry. So it's great. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for sharing all your wisdom. And, we look forward to maybe in a couple months getting a part two and kind of going more in detail to it, because I'm sure there's a lot that we didn't touch base on. So thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.